My name is Jerry Song. I'm a STEAM coordinator with the Division of Instruction, but my current focus is climate literacy. So we're going to get started. This is one of my favorite quotes that's been really driving, the work of climate literacy. And again, it's the quote, and maybe many of you may have heard it or something similar to it. Tell me, and I forget. Teach me, and I may remember. But involve me and I learn. And so the whole idea of real world problem based learning is involving our students, getting them involved, helping them to become not the target of learning, but helping them to become a participant in this global community just to contribute to the solution to many global problems, including climate literacy. So our agenda for today, again, our focus is today with the little time that we have is not going to go into a whole lot of specific details. It's going to be giving you a general big picture of why use real world problems in the classroom. And then also it's going to give you a general overview of climate literacy in LAUSD and how we are using real world problems to provide a context to our students. And then we are connecting the all the subject matter that we knowledge and skills that we teach in our classrooms to actually provide a purpose for them. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So today, why we're going to talk about why real world problems, and the reason is because of these that you see right here: empathy, context, rigor, student cultures and assets, and then finally empowerment. And where they all kind of overlap. So you're going to be hearing me talk about each of these throughout the day, throughout the hour. All right. Let's start before we get into those specific reasons why, to kind of provide a foundation to the real world problem-based learning that's happening in many of our classrooms. And when I first started with the Division of Instruction, I really never knew what Sustainable Development Goals were. I knew the UN, but I didn't know they had these goals. And interestingly, in the past, the goals were more focused on developing nations. But this recent set of goals has been very specific to. It has been very specific to bring in the entire world to contribute to the solutions to these issues. Okay. And so hopefully many of you are now starting to hear about the Sustainable Development Goals in many other areas. In fact, we have ITI, or Instructional Technology Initiative Group, who for the past 2 years has been doing Level Up LA, which is incredible. It's again, they worked with Microsoft to build a model of LA in Minecraft. Minecraft, something that my daughters, they love, and so our students love Minecraft. And so rather than just playing Minecraft for the sake of playing Minecraft, why not give them a purpose, right? And so ITI has, now they're calling it their esports for good, which is the idea of where last year students leveled up LA, the simulated LA in Minecraft. They improved it and made it more sustainable. And last year, the focus was specifically on UN Goal 13, which is climate action. And again, it was just incredible to see students so engaged, and they're explaining why they did certain things in their Minecraft LA, and to how it's going to make LA more sustainable. Talk about preparing our students for the world, right? All right, we're going to continue on.
Hello? Hello? Are you there? I was just saying that we have to use our creative superpowers to achieve the United Nations global goals. How? Although the Earth is just a tiny speck in space, it seems enormous to us when we're on it. The global goals can seem huge too, but if you focus on fixing the things where you live, you can make a big difference. There are 3 ways you can help. You can invent, innovate, and campaign. So buckle up. and let's take a lightning flight around the world to see what young people are doing already. First stop is Istanbul in Turkey, where we meet Elif. She's an inventor. Like many big cities, there's a lot of pollution in Istanbul, some caused by petroleum-based plastics. Elif wasn't happy about that and wondered what she could do. So she invented a new natural plastic made from banana skins. No, seriously. It's cheap, easy to recycle, and you can make it in your own kitchen. And if you like banana desserts, you can't really lose, unless you eat too much. You can be an innovator, be creative, and think about how to improve the way we live. Take urban creators in North Philadelphia. This amazing group of teenagers reclaimed derelict land in a dangerous, run-down neighborhood. They built a thriving farm where they grow fresh food and now supply hundreds of local homes and restaurants. Life Do Grow Farm has transformed the community and made it healthier and safer for everyone. Young inventors, innovators and campaigners everywhere are changing the world for good. And so can you. You just need to care, get creative and collaborate. If we all do that, by 2030 we can really make the global goals a reality. I'm just saying.
All right, so that was a little video about, again, how students are actually taking this action, where they're, again, contributing to the solution to these global issues. And they become involved, they become a part of it. And what they realize is as they do this, they need um, uh, content knowledge and skills. And so again, and it's incredible to see how students learn. All right. And I saw some questions in the chat. Again, I put in the chat a link to the sign in for today for this PD. It's the same link that we're going to be using to sign out, but also I put a link to the Schoology group in there that's going to house this presentation, the recording, and so forth. I will, though, however, at the end of this session, give you a link to the actual presentation so you can take a look at it immediately. All right. All right. So why real world problems? Rigor. It's incredible to see the amount of rigor that's involved uh, when students tackle a real world problem. And the key to this rigor is the fact that there is no answer key. In so much of the work our students do in the classroom, the teacher's holding the answer key, right? Or it's in the teacher's guide, right? And answer keys have been found to be just really kind of the enemy of rigor. And it just when there's only one right answer, rigor goes down. However, when students are working on problems that are open-ended, that there's just so many different possible solutions for them. And in fact, we need all of those different varied solutions to kind of get to the end goal. And so when that happens, rigor goes up. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that in a second. So as you can see here, again, the idea is that these global problems, like climate change, are not going to be solved by one person, right? It's not going to be solved with one idea. It's going to take humans, on this planet working together, everybody contributing, corporations, people, individuals, everyone, to actually solve these problems. And so our students, even in their own way, can contribute to the solutions to these real world problems. And so again, when students are involved, they learn. You can't help it, but you can't help it, for them to learn. And okay, let's see. So something that that I found looking at this is, and you may have already heard the idea of a low floor and high ceiling, where basically you're giving students a task where they can address the task no matter what level they're at. So it provides equity in access, where again, it's not like, for example, if it's a question that requires just route memory, if the students who remember that one fact, they got it. The ones who don't got it. That does not have a low floor, high ceiling, right? But when you have real world problems happening in the classroom, you have the low floor and the high ceiling, which means that the students can all access it from wherever they are at whatever level they're at. And then something that kind of connects to that, which I'm learning about recently, is that the idea of wide walls. And I'm going to share with you at the end of this a reference, slide that has links to articles, and you can take a look at and other sorts of information. And there's an article specifically about this. The person who kind of came up with the idea of high ceilings uh, and low floor is also contributing to the idea of wide walls. And that wide walls idea is that students aren't all solving the same problem, just using slightly different strategies. It's actually students who are able to decide on their own, how am I going to address this real world problem? And so we have students who may be extremely talented in arts. They may be, and so they may use their art talent to design uh, uh, art pieces that communicate the importance of uh, achieving these goals. And then also, we may have students who are extremely talented with coding. And I've seen students who utilize Scratch and Scratch Junior to kind of model and explain how they're going to solve these problems. They can engineer and work on in your makerspaces. They can engineer a solution as well. So these, when you work on real world problems, you have these wide walls where students can all come up with their own very unique ways of addressing the problem. And you will get a link to this presentation, and you have again articles all linked here as well. And another reason for using real world problems is empathy, and we're realizing how important empathy is for our students' development. And it's not just an emotional empathy. I mean, yes, the emotional empathy is there when students see people suffering from climate change, from heat issues in their neighborhood. They're going to develop empathy. But just like in this picture right here, we're seeing a lot of these artworks out, lately, and they're just amazing. I don't know how the artists can actually do this, but again, if you look at this art piece from one angle, one perspective, it looks like a mess. It's just everything is just all over the place. You have no idea, nothing seems to really make sense. And then if you shift your perspective, then all of a sudden you see this beautiful piece of art. And again, in the same way with empathy, our students have to be able to change their perspective. Not literally, they can't just walk over um, to and be in the perspective, but look at the problem from the perspective of people dealing with the problem. They have to do that mentally, and that's a really rigorous and again a cognitively demanding task for our students. That when students do more of that in the classroom, they develop significantly disability. And in fact, I believe this kind of perspective taking is even a question, common question type in the LSAT, like the SATs for lawyers, right, for law school. All right. And then again, students are designing solutions, not from the perspective of themselves, but they're designing solutions from the perspective of the people affected by the problem, which requires that empathy. And so again, our students are engaged, they're involved, and they're using their skill. And so context, what does it mean when we say that real world problems provide a context to their learning? Well, again, I remember my first few years of teaching, and actually most of my years of teaching, I would say, in the classroom. There were so many times when I was teaching them something like a very difficult math concept, and my students would look at me and would say, "Mr. Song, why do we need to learn this?" Right? And my typical answer was, "Because someday you're going to need it." Right? And so that doesn't provide context for our students. And in fact, UCLA Center X, when I kind of, we're working with them to provide PDs for climate literacy champions last year. When I talked to them about this, they kind of connected this to a business term, a shipping term, just in time versus just in case. And what I did in the classroom, where I told the students, you're going to need this someday, that's the just in case. And it just isn't as, impactful to our students. However, if the students are working on a real world problem and they encounter a situation where they're like, I can't get to the next step in my solution because I'm lacking some information, some knowledge, or I'm lacking a specific skill. And then at that moment, the students are provided instruction or learning on that. They're just going to be absorbing it and taking it in. And they will not be asking you, why do I need to learn this? Because they're actually the ones who are requesting to be taught this. And at some point, again, ideally, we want our students to kind of tell our teachers, you know what, hey, thank you very much, but can you step out of the way? I think I need to, I need more information than what you have, right? And so they start to become researchers themselves, and they start to be able to go out and find this information on their own. And so that's kind of where we want our students to get to. And again, I've talked about this a little bit, but again, when we have students working on these wide wall problems, where they can address the solution, their solution that they're going to contribute to the problem. Um, when they can do it using their talents and their skills and the culture that they bring into that classroom, whether it's their family culture, their ethnic culture, whatever it might be, when they bring in who they are to this, they are being involved. And again, we are truly um, uh, respecting and honoring our students, for who they are, right? Rather than us trying to figure out their culture, which, is usually a feeble attempt, the students actually just bring in their own self into all of it because they're involved. And in fact, I remember um, one time, driving home sometime last year, and I was listening to NPR, and there was this reporter was interviewing a student um, who was um, I guess she was invited to speak to the UN about climate change, and she actually ended up even, she started to write a book about what she's doing with regards to, to trying to achieve UN Goal 13, climate action. And the reporter kind of looked at her and said, you're a high school student. You have to worry about prom. You have to worry about, college and college applications and, exams, finals. Aren't you exhausted? And so, which makes sense. I mean, it's just, just listening to everything that she was doing, it seemed like it was too much, and on top of, just regular high school craziness, she's talking to the UN and she's writing a book. And so the student kind of became quiet for a little bit. And then suddenly she said, no, I love this. This is why I'm doing this. It's, you know, she was so excited and she was so empowered. Okay. And she, had no problems with dealing with all of the craziness of her schedule because it was something that she was passionate about. And so what I'm realizing is that, with our students, when I was a classroom teacher, and especially at the beginning, I thought engagement was well, actually, no, sorry. When I first started teaching, I actually thought compliance was my ultimate goal, to get my kids to sit down and listen and be quiet, right? That was my ultimate goal as a, first year teacher. And then later on, I realized, no, I need to get my kids engaged. And so I thought engagement was kind of like the highest point. And now I'm realizing it's actually empowerment. And that's where we get students involved, where they actually get to realize that, hey, little old me, and this could be, an early education center preschool student, it could be a high schooler, it could be a middle schooler, it could be a kindergartner, where they actually feel empowered to be able to contribute to the solution to global issues and problems that they see in their community. And if they can contribute to that in some way, they're involved and they're empowered. Um, and in fact, what's amazing about that is, when I first kind of started working on climate literacy last year, I was really nervous. The one thing I didn't want to do is scare our students. You know, in fact, our SEL department, um, provided a professional development, which we're going to continue on this year. That'll be more district wide, not just for champions, about eco anxiety and SEL. And the main point to this was um, the solution to preventing eco anxiety for our students is service learning. And that's where, again, students are taking action. And SEL, I found out, again, it was definitely educational for me too. SEL, a huge part of SEL is service learning and students being actually taking um, everything that they're learning and putting it into action. And so when our students are empowered and they hear about a global issue, something that may be an existential threat, just like climate literacy is, instead of being anxious or even worse, developing apathy at some point to deal with all the anxiety, students who are empowered will take a look at the next problem that comes up and say, "Hey, you know, get me involved. How can I, what can I do? I know I can actually contribute to this, and help to solve this problem," because they've already had that experience in the classroom. And imagine our students in the real world after college and career, or K-12 and college, when they enter the real world into whatever field they're in. If they're empowered like this, imagine what they can do. So ultimately, one of the books that I read my students up in elementary school was, if you give a mouse a cookie, um, well, to connect to that, if you give a student a real world problem, they might just change the world. All right. And so this, to kind of sum up everything that we're talking about with real world problems, I've kind of separated it out here. We into real world problem-based, transdisciplinary, and learning. So real world, okay, it's relevant and connected to the student's passions and concerns. Problem-based, so this is a little bit different than project-based, because again, sorry, if you could please all make sure you are muted. Okay, so with kind of a difference between project-based and problem-based. Problem-based does have projects involved, but what I've seen in the past with project-based often is their students are all working on one project, right? All of their projects may look a little bit different, but it's still one project. And so again, then we don't have those wide walls. But problem-based, when we start with this real-world problem, then projects are there and integrated, but again, we provide the wide walls where the students decide on the project that they're going to use to design solutions. Transdisciplinary. So that's a term I learned when I was a part of the cohort 1 STEAM micro-credential program that human HR provided many years ago, and they're still doing. But the idea of transdisciplinary learning, which is actually quite common, in other areas, it's where subject matter content becomes a tool for a student, okay, and not the focus of the learning, not the end goal. And so again, they're utilizing these tools, again, everything that they learn in school, design solutions to complex real-world problems. And then finally, the focus is changing the verb that happens in class. Instead of teaching, let's shift it from teaching to learning. Teaching is about the teacher and what they do. And again, extremely important. But again, everything that the teacher does is to ensure that our students learn. So we want to shift the verb in the classroom from teaching to learning. All right, so we're going to continue on here. And I think I have one more video for you.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
To fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
a 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
Where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
and where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
Where everyone
goes to school.
and education gives us the knowledge
and skills
For a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities to thrive
and be powerful
and safe.
we cannot succeed if afterwards get back.
we will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water
And proper toilets
At home,
at school
and at work.
We will live in a world where there's
sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light,
And power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper.
And new wealth.
Leads to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
inside our countries
And between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
That are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume. Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
where we restore
And protect the life in our oceans and seas.
or restore and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
animals,
the earth itself.
with peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
with everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
Work together
Partnerships of all kinds.
to make these goals
A reality.
These are the United Nations global goals.
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
All right. So again, just kind of a little a challenge for everybody to contribute to this, right? To contribute to these goals, to make our world a better place. And again, many of the problems that our students are going to face, unfortunately, our generation is not going to solve for them. And for us to be able to truly prepare our students to be ready for a world that is not going to be perfect, but it's going to be filled with problems, we need to prepare them by, again, aligning and bringing in a safe manner some of the problems out there and some of the things, what's happening in the real world and connecting it to our classroom, right? And again, just preparing our students, giving them the mindset. Imagine a generation of students entering the workforce with that kind of a mentality, right? Okay, so my apology. Again, I kind of went against that quote, and just as that quote said, tell me and I forget. And for the last half hour, I did a lot of telling. However, I do want to explain now about LAUSD climate literacy, how to get involved, right? And how LAUSD is involved in contributing to not just UN Goal 13. If you saw the video, you saw that there are a lot more goals that are connected to climate change and in the environment. And it's incredible to see how so many groups and so many organizations are getting involved with this. The state of California just recently passed AB 285 that requires and mandates that climate literacy be taught in every California school in science class. Originally, the people who wrote this, actually were really trying to get it so that it was in all subject areas, just like our LAUSD climate literacy board resolution calls for. However, they just didn't have the funding to support all subject areas, but they are going to try to get to that point. So this is something that, again, the world truly cares about. And it's something that, again, is something we need to figure out, right? And how do we then prepare our students for that? And, LAUSD is not going to solve climate change. And so that's why our focus and the title is climate literacy, not climate change, because our job is educators, and we are, again, preparing our students who will then enter the real world, and we want to prepare them to be able to handle these issues. They maybe that this generation will solve some of these problems. If not, they're going to have to still use that rigor and that critical thinking to be able to mitigate and address the issues that come with these problems. All right, so LAUSD climate literacy. You are going to get a copy of all of this. I'm going to give you a link to the presentation before you leave today. And all of these links are clickable. If you want to learn more about the LAUSD Climate Literacy Board resolution, here's the resolution document right here. And the most recent UTLA contract that we just past, last year or the year before that, that gave us, our nice pay raises, interestingly had or included an MOU specifically about climate change and climate literacy. And that included information about climate literacy champions um, and more. So LAUSD climate literacy last year, these are some of the things that we did. So the Schoology group, which has grown significantly. And so again, I'm hoping that, we can double that number this year. And it serves as a repository for all the climate literacy information, curriculum, and resources. You can see here some of the folders. I'm going to cover a little bit more about this later. But again, you all have the link to join these Schoology group. And again, it has a lot of information there, including professional development. All the professional developments that I talked to you about, or many, that the climate literacy champions received last year, the recordings and the slide decks are all there. So we also have 2 new courses specific to environmental and climate science. You can take a look right there for high school and middle school. You can take a look at the professional development that again, our champions receive. And again, all of those are housed in the Schoology group, so anybody can access those. This one right here, Dr. Baez, our Chief Academic Officer, she recorded a little video about, for our students, about the climate action kit that Forward Education provides. It's a small little Canadian company that I somehow just ran across, and it's one of the few, if only, kits out there that utilizes robotics and coding, but it's specifically targeted to climate literacy. And so again, many of our schools with climate literacy champions last year already received these kits, and including the curriculum that goes along with all of this. We are going to continue that. Thankfully, we have more ELOP funding for this school year. And so again, the climate literacy champion schools will have an opportunity to not just this time get kits, but they also have an opportunity now to get funding to run after-school climate literacy clubs that can utilize these kits and more. So again, please talk to your principals about making sure that your school has a climate literacy champion. And then we have we started our first annual climate literacy symposium last year. And we're kind of, I want to, we did last year, it was our first time we tried it out. I want to modify it a little bit this year. We're going to try to expand it a little bit to make it longer, where it's not just one day. It's connected to Earth Day, but again, we want to make it kind of multiple days, maybe a week. And then the focus is not going to be like vendors or other partners talking to our students, but rather our focus this year is going to be really to get students talking to other students in our district. And as you can see, we've had nearly 7,000 students attend virtually. I'm going to show you a little video that talks about climate literacy and what happened this school, or last school.
Chairs and fellow delegates, recognizing how the manufacturing district causes about a third of the carbon emissions, informing the public about the effects of climate change and how consumerism has affected the amount of carbon dioxide produced.
Our goal basically is to spread awareness and to teach a lot of new delegates from elementary school, middle school, and high school how to change the world and give solutions.
This conference may be just for younger delegates, but this will help them bring solutions to our world over the course of their entire life.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm a co-chair of the committee UNEP, which stands for the United Nations Environmental Program, and our topic is plastic production and pollution.
We're part of Bridgesmund, and so our committee was called CSOCD, which is the Commission for Social Development, and our topic for this conference was mitigating the effects of climate change on urban labor jobs.
So basically what we made is design to solve a problem in our school for food waste. Uh, can you kind of explain me it's what's that? That's you like use 3D modeling software?
My name is Barry Bakeen. I'm the climate champion at North Valley Occupational Center. NVOC is one of the 11 adult schools in the Division of Adult and Career Education. One of the first tasks that the adult education climate champions took on was to create an adult school climate literacy course. You can see that we have folders for lessons and materials for our different programs, a place for adult teachers to start discussions, and as well some folders that schools can use to promote the different activities that they've done. Here's one of the actual slideshows that one of the classes produced.
Hi, my name is Karen Caruso, and this is my second year as a climate champion at 3rd Street Elementary School. We've had several school-wide events as well as class parties where it's bring your own water bottle, and we've done so with 0 plastic bottles. Next year, we're going to start a climate club for interested 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
So that video kind of gives you just a little snippet of what happened with climate literacy last year. And, you know, again, you saw all the different aspects of it. So we have here, again, climate literacy champion. You know, it's every time I met with the champion, and I hadn't, you know, when I had the opportunity to be here or, you know, read about everything that they've been doing at their school site, I've just been amazed. Our champions, again, are incredibly knowledgeable and far more knowledgeable than I am about many of these issues. And it's incredible to see how they are leading the work of climate literacy at their school site. Yeah, I'm not going to read everything here for you, but you can take a look. This is just some of the work that they've been doing. You know, I just didn't have enough room to fit everything in here so people could read it. But again, we're going to continue this, and I'll be talking about climate literacy for the 24-25 school year. You know, we're really hoping to increase the number of schools with champions. You know, I think we have about 800 schools, and we want to see if we can get all of them to have a climate literacy champion. The board resolution does call for every school to have a champion. And again, there's no cost to the school necessarily. The district provides a differential for the climate literacy champion. In fact, in the past, it was just a standard, I think, like a little under $700 differential per semester. But the UTLA, LAUSD, MOU bumped that up. And so as a champion, they work about 15 hours in addition to their, outside of their, you know, regularly paid district hours on leading the work of climate literacy. So again, you can take a look at everything that's going to be happening this year. Like I mentioned, professional developments are going to be more focused on the entire district where we invite everybody. It'll be on MyPLN. We also want to create a climate literacy champion leadership team. And this is going to be a smaller group of champions who meet on Saturdays to actually start developing curriculum and resources that we're going to house in the Schoology group. And I'm going to share a little bit more about the Schoology group in a second, but again, that's where everything is housed. And so, you know, after this PD, you might be asking, what does that look like in a classroom? You know, and, you know, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the PD, my focus today is not to give you specifics, but it's rather to give you the big picture. And again, 24-25 is where we're going to continue the work to really involve schools and involve students in the work of climate literacy. I already talked about the ELO funding that we're going to continue on with, as well as, you know, we're going to be collaborating with, you know, the CAP champions, the cultural arts program, as well as the art department, which has been incredible. So again, you know, we're trying to expand, and we are trying to make it again where we connect it to all subject areas. And so you can see the increased collaboration with other departments and offices. You know, our ELA, their secondary ELA coordinator provided one of the PDs that he provided during this time is critical media literacy and how important that is for climate literacy. And so his professional development that he worked with a UCLA graduate student is focused on climate literacy and climate change. So here you can again take a look at this. All of these are clickable. We have the IOC that explains in detail everything about the Climate Literacy Champion differential opportunity. You can see the information right there. And so again, it's the principal who selects the champion at the school site. So please make sure you talk to the principal, and the principal should be the one really who completes this Google form. All right, so I talked to you about the additional resources. You can take a look up here. You'll see a lot of links to just articles and so forth that I've used in the past to just kind of study and deepen my knowledge on this. And then you can look down here. This is the climate literacy, the LAUSD climate literacy website, again, and the Schoology group, and also the eco-sustainability office, which is unique because again, that just started last year. And so I'm really, surprised and proud that LAUSD has an entire office of eco-sustainability. In the past, we had just kind of a sustainability, department within facilities, which is what most school districts do. But our school district this year or last year created the Office of Eco-Sustainability, and this group is meant to be the liaison between all the offices to ensure that our district is meeting the requirements of the climate literacy board resolution. And so, again, the Schoology group, once you get in there, you're going to see 4 big folders right now, along with other resources. But you'll see district resources. Again, the link to join the Schoology group, just copy this link and share that with somebody. And then what happens is, as you may have already seen, if you click the link, it takes you directly to the group, the join group page in Schoology if you're already logged in. And then it pre-populates the access code for you, so you don't have to sit there and retype everything, right? And all the people that you share this with will not have to retype the code and possibly get the O and the 0 mixed up, right? So it just pre-populates it for you. And then we have classroom learning resources. You'll see in there an entire folder that was developed by STEAM collaborative members that developed many lessons, many of them specific to climate literacy as well, climate change. And focus on utilizing UN goals. And so you'll see an entire unit for each grade level span that is a kind of like a beginning level real world problem-based transdisciplinary learning unit. And so you can see what that looks like. And what's incredible is our collaborative members are amazing, and they recorded a video to explain the unit that they developed, right? So you get to hear from the authors, why they did certain things. And then here we have the climate change PD, climate champion PD, and staff relations, staff learning resources. And in that folder, you're going to see the PDs that champions receive, as well as other professional development. This professional development that you're in right now will be housed in there as well. And then finally, we have a new folder for climate literacy champion information. The IOC is there, the MOU, everything should be there. So you just click on it, the flyer is there, and take a look at to learn more about that. All right.